So after learning about those two lean tools which we learned earlier, which were 5S and value analysis, let's look at one more tool for analyzing your process. And remember, you are in analysis phase of DMAC process. You have already done the measurement of the current performance, and now what you want to do is you want to analyze that. So one of the tool which you can use there is FMEA, and FMEA is failure modes and effects analysis. And what does that mean is that FMEA helps you in identifying failure modes. What are the modes in which a thing or the product can fail? So those are failure modes. So let's take an example of the car. What all ways your car can fail? Your car can fail if there is a less pressure in the tire, if there is a problem with the engine, if there is a problem with the brake, if there is a problem with the door. Whatever problems you can have related to product, you list down where all things can go wrong. And remember, this is not something after a problem has happened. This is a proactive tool. At the design stage itself, you are looking at the reasons or the areas where things can fail. So those are failure modes. And then what you want to look at is what will be the effect of that failure. So that's the reason the name of this is FMEA, failure modes and effects analysis. So what you do here is you identify the problems here and then you prioritize those. Things can fail in number of ways. Let's say in case of car, there could be number of failures. One of the failure could be brake failure. That's one failure. The second failure could be a slight scratch on the door. That's also a failure when it comes to the car. Now, which one of these you should prioritize? Should you be putting too much of attention on avoiding a scratch on the door, or you should be putting too much of attention to make sure that the brakes do not fail? That's where FMEA comes into picture. It helps you in identifying and prioritizing the areas which you need to improve upon. So you have a process. Now you can identify all the problems and then you can prioritize that and take action on those priority items only, and then maybe you can take action on less priority items later on. So as I earlier said that this is a proactive tool and this is used before the problems happen, not after the problems happen. So here I have an example of FMEA tool being used. We are not going into details of creating this tool, but I just want to give you a high level overview of FMEA. In this FMEA, what we are doing is, let's say we have a perfume making company which buys number of items, makes the right perfume, fills that in the bottle and delivers that to client. So here, if you look at the first column is the process. The process is perfume making, and in that process receiving is one step. So here we are receiving the perfume contents from our sub-supplier. So that's the receiving part of that. And what are the failure modes in that? Let's say the one failure mode could be wrong ingredient. So someone gives you the wrong input when it comes to perfume. And what would that lead to? That would lead to inconsistent quality. So you don't get exactly the thing which you want. If there is a change in that, that will lead to the poor quality of the product which you are making, which is perfume in this case. Then we look at the severity of that. What's the severity of that? Severity is given number from number 1 to number 10. Number 1 is less severe, number 10 is highly severe. In case of car example, let's say if this was a brake failure as one of the mode, then I would put the severity as 10 because that could be fatal. Somebody could get killed because of that. But based on that, you put the severity of that. Now what you do is you look at the causes of this failure mode. So what could be the cause of that? The cause of this could be probably we have not specified our requirement very clearly to the supplier. The second cause could be substandard material provided by supplier. Even though we have asked for the right content, but the supplier has given us something different. And then you look at the occurrence of that. What's the chance of occurring? This also is from the scale of 1 to 10. If the chance of happening something is very rare, you put that as 1. if the chance of something happening is very strong, there is a very good chance of something like this happening, then you put the occurrence as 10. Anything in between, you put according to what's the chance of that particular thing happening. Let's say in case of unclear specification, we have put the chance of happening that to 3, and substandard material being provided by supplier, we have put the occurrence as 6. There is a more chance that supplier might give us something wrong. And then what you do is you look at what all controls you have. So in case of poor specification or the wrong specification, we say that okay, we have a process where we review and approve the specification before we ask supplier to give us those perfume ingredients. In case of substandard material supplied by supplier, we have a control where we ask third party to provide the certificate, or we have some test which we do before we receive that product. So there could be number of steps which you could do to avoid that problem. So there would be some controls which already are there. So you list that down, and then you look at that. If these are the controls which you have, then what's the chance of detecting the problem? That also you put on a scale of 1 to 10. And then what you do is you find out RPN value. RPN is risk priority number. Risk priority number will tell you that which items you need to attend to first. So higher RP number, you give more attention to those particular areas. So here, how do you find RPN? You find out RPN by multiplying these three numbers, the one as severity, the occurrence and the detection. And all these numbers are on the scale of 1 to 10. So what does that mean is, if all these are 10, your RPN could go to 1000. And if all these are 1, your RPN could be 1. So the value of RPN in this case would be anything between 1 and 1000. So when you multiply, let's say in the first case, 8 multiplied by 3 multiplied by 4, you get a RPN of 96. In the second case, you multiply 8 by 6 by 4, that gives you an RPN value of 192. So probably out of these two, you would see that second item is more critical. The substandard material being supplied by supplier is a more critical than giving the wrong specification. But this is one step. Probably you have a much bigger list here when you create the full FMEA for the process which you are doing. So this was a brief introduction to FMEA, failure modes and effects analysis. So just to refresh, what we have done here is, in failure modes and effects analysis, we have listed down all the failure modes, we have listed down all the effects of that, and then we have looked at the severity, occurrence and detection of all these items. And once you multiply these three things, severity, occurrence and detection, you come out with one number which is RPN, and based on that you prioritize that which of these are bigger risks and where you need to take more action. So this was the tool which you can use in analysis phase of Six Sigma project.